There we go.
Is it on now? Okay. Was the red light on? Yeah, that's what I thought. Anyway, let's call the November meeting to order. Chairman Foy sends his regrets. He's doing some testimony and hopefully may join us at some point during the meeting. First, we'll do public comments. Are there any public comments?
Yes, Chairman. We have 3 public speakers. The first speaker is Jason Pinheiro.
You're not on either.
It's not on
There it is. You're good now.
now. It's very happy to see that we're gonna hear a report from the architect of Omni on Poultry. I'm very happy to see an update because we don't need to be swiping and have a fail every time. Now it's tap and go, just like in DC, Boston, Philly, Chicago, almost everywhere. So I'm delighted to hear the report. And I'll see you guys on Thursday.
Thank you. The next public speaker is Matt Camper.
Good afternoon, members of the CPOC committee. First of all, I want to mention, it's LAWR related, but Floral Park, it is miserable. The railings, the platform, just everything in the station looks horrible, and the station looks just so out to date. And it looks, as I explained it, like the old Hicksville station before it was renovated, which looks so much better than it used to. And I feel that Floral Park needs to get the attention. It needs to get the renovation that it deserves. And I'm going to call it a transformation. Floral Park needs that transformation. I feel that is something that you guys need to look into as part of the next capital plan, which is 2020 and 2024. Second of all, I'm really looking forward to hearing an update on Omni, One Metro New York. It is something that is well overdue, and as a rider of the system every single day, including the Long Island Railroad, I really just love what you guys are doing with Omni, and really looking forward one day to definitely using it within the next few years. So looking forward to it, and that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And the last public speaker is Kevin Zhang.
Hello, good afternoon. I want to consider about Omni content lists are installed every station in Manhattan and the Bronx, and will be continuing to install in Brooklyn and Queens. Once the Omni contact list will be complete, and then Omni contact list will be active by the end of 2020. Also, Omni contact list for Manhattan bus will be resumed active beginning 2020. MetroCards will be end in July 2023. Thank you and have a nice day.
Thank you. That concludes public speakers.
Thanks to our public speakers. We appreciate your comments. Are there any changes to the work plan?
There are no changes to the work plan.
In that case, we will have our update on minority, women, and disadvantaged businesses. Mr. Garner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to turn it over to Ray Burke, who is the acting deputy CDO for MWDB contract compliance. He's going to give you our overall MWDB goals in relations to the FTA and the state of New York's goals.
Good afternoon. The MWDBE and SDVOB participation on MTA projects with goals. For federal participation, our goal is 18%. For the fiscal year 2019, we had a total of 95 million in DBE awards, which is 20%. Our attainment is based on the awards as far as DBE is concerned. The New York State MWBE program, our goal is 15%. The participation or attainment on that particular area is 9%, which is based on payments. In WBE, the participation, actually the goal is 15%, and the participation is also 9%, once again based on payments. SDVOB, our goal is 6%, and our attainment is 0.23%, which is based on payments.
I think it would be helpful if you explained the difference between the awards and the payments,
Well,
because the percentages are obviously and reasonably different.
right. Well, on the federal side, for our attainment, they base our attainment on the awarding of contracts during that period. And on the federal side, we awarded 20%, which exceeds obviously the goal by 2%. But on the state, which is also MW and SDVOB, it's payment driven. So for MWBE, we have a total of 18%. And as far as SDVOB, it's 6%.
So let me anticipate your question. So in capital construction, there will never be a time in which we will hit our targeted goals because of the complexity of a lot of the capital construction projects with equipment and specialized trades. So we are doing everything in our power to attend MW and DB events in order to recruit more firms in. So we are getting ready for this record in capital budget that's going to be approved. And so we're gearing up to do everything that we can to maximize the MW and DBE on our capital construction side. Speaking up to that further, last year we achieved 26% MWBE inclusion. That's more broadly on everything that we buy, including A&E, IT, goods and supplies. So we are headed towards achieving the governor's 30% goal this year, which ends on March 31st.
My button won't stay on here. There we go. I recognize the effort that you've been making to increase your pool and therefore to be able to increase your awards. And I understand how we are being evaluated, but I am pleased to see that you are increasing. You give a substantial number of awards. It takes some time for those to work through the system. But as long as I keep seeing the awards being higher than the goal, I know that we're going to get there. And that's an important thing to keep in mind, because we've got to hit those goals.
So now we're going to have our annual small business mentoring program overview. Jigish is going to talk about Scope A, that's the construction management aspect, and George is going to speak with regard to the development aspect of our small business mentoring program.
Good afternoon. My name is Jigish Patel. George Clary and I will present the annual update of the Small Business Development Program. The full report is in your CPOC book. The program is in its 10th year. This year, New York State legislation has extended the program till 2029. In past 10 years, the program has grown with the help of all agencies, steering committee members, engineering, and procurement. TDX Construction, our construction manager, who has been our partner into day-to-day management of projects and in continuous mentoring our firms. With the support and guidance from MTA's executive leadership and assistance from the agencies, we look forward to another decade of success. So let's get into the program's definition. Within the SBDP, we have 3 programs. SBMP Tier 1, which is a state-funded contracts up to $1 million. SBMP Tier 2, which are contracts from $1 to $3 million, also state-funded. And Small Business Federal Program, which are federally funded contracts from $0 to $3 million. Since the inception of the SBMP Tier 1 program, we have awarded 272 projects, totaling the value of $165 million. Of those awards, 70% of contracts have been awarded to New York State certified MWBE firms. Future goals of the program has been set in line with agency commitments with an added growth factor. Tier 1 goal for next year is $26 million.
Sorry.
So in the selection of firms, is there a panel that decides on those firms, or how many people make that decision, just out of curiosity,
The selection of the firms on a bid list or into the program.
into the program?
Anyone can apply into the program as long as they meet the criteria. It's an ongoing inclusion. There are no set dates for it, so any contractor can apply at any time.
Thank you.
Going into SBMP Tier 2, that program is exclusive for the graduates of Tier 1. We have awarded 66 contracts totaling $127 million. Of those contracts, 90% of contracts have been awarded to New York State certified M&WB firms. The Tier 2 goal for next year is $20 million. Federal regulations support the implementation of a disadvantaged business enterprise program. Based on those guidelines, MTA's proposal of creating a program which has a two-step procurement process while reserving full and open competition was accepted by the FTA. Thus, the federal program was created in 2012. Within the SBFP, a firm can apply directly to the program without participating in SBMP Tier 1 or Tier 2. 57 contracts have been awarded, totaling $108 million to date. Of those, 59% of contracts have been awarded to DBE firms. Our goal for next year for SBFP is $20 million. The slide shows the progress of making awards versus goals for this program year. As of today, we have awarded $52 million, and in additional $34 million worth of projects are currently in bidding. We're on track to meet our goals or exceed our goals this year. This slide shows some of the typical projects. The majority of the projects completed in the program have been stair rehabilitation projects for New York City Transit, asphalt and concrete paving projects for Metro North and LIRR, and bridge preservation projects for bridges and tunnels. Photos of these projects can be found in your SUPOP book. In the past 10 years, the program has awarded over $400 million in contracts. Our goal for the proposed 2020-2024 capital plan is to award $365 million, approximately $100 million more than the past 5 years that we have done. Here are some before and after photos of the completed projects. I'll now turn over the program to George Clary.
Thanks, Jigish. Good afternoon, everybody. This slide shows our distribution of the contractors by location. As of September 30th, 217 firms are currently pre-qualified and enrolled in the program. And we continue to outreach throughout the 14 regions that we serve. And we anticipate by the end of the year, this number will go up to approximately 230 firms.
On that chart that you just had there, nothing north of Westchester?
No.
Good question, Andrew. Definitely something I've been harping on a bit, although I've backed off a little. I know that you've made significant outreach to the Mid-Hudson, but I would appreciate it if you'd continue with that outreach, because I think, especially if when you do your outreach, you explain or bring some of the people who have been successful to the Mid-Hudson so they can see that it really is something that works. The reason I've heard when I speak to small businesses in the Mid-Hudson region is that you have your coursework down here, and that's very difficult. It takes me 2.5 hours to get here. and that's when it's not snowing. So it's hard for a small business to be doing the work here. If there's any way you can figure out how to make it easier, it would be less problematic for them. We don't have the same number of trains coming and going.
Assure you that in addition to that, that we will make sure that we are working in tandem with the Metro North Railroad to create opportunities for those areas. That's one. Secondly, I'm agreeing right now that we will have a training program or an orientation program in the upstate counties as we move forward.
And thank you, Andrew.
Okay. Yep. Next slide is our loan program. Access to capital has been one of our pillars of the program. And in the 10 years since inception, loan program has awarded 120 loans that have been approved, totaling a little over $16 million.
So we agreed last week that the RFP is currently up for this loan program. And there was a recommendation that we change the scope to include more firms who are bidding in the small business mentoring program and open it up in a different scope. So any firm who needs access to a loan can apply to our program, because as George indicated, we've solved the problem of access to capital, which is a national problem. We've solved it here. So when we open it up, as we anticipate the record number of contract awards that we are going to be making, those MW and DB subcontractors who need access to capital, we will structure a program under the same RFP for them as well.
Okay. Our next slide shows the total contracts awarded by ethnicity for Tier 1, 2, and the federal program since the inception. This slide shows the total dollars that have been awarded and the percentage that were awarded to each group. Our Emerging Contractors Program was established to increase the diversity of the program, as well as to assist firms who did not qualify for Tier 1 due to their financials. Emerging Contractors Program has been the most diverse group of contractors within the Small Business Development Program. And as you can see on the slide, we have had 64 firms that were pre-qualified. 22 firms, once their financials was in order, transitioned into Tier 1. 11 projects were awarded, totaling $4.9 million. Okay. Our training program, which is another major staple of our program in business development. We provide business and technical training to our contractors. And the training program classes are administered twice a year, in the spring and in the fall. Currently, we have 42 contractors enrolled in our fall training class.
Can we go back to the success stories that we had?
Okay. There you go.
So okay, great. So these are some of the success stories of contractors who, under ordinary circumstances, would not see the light of day here because of the size of our projects. So we changed the way that we do business. So these are some success stories that we have and that we've chronicled. Great, thank you.
This next slide basically showed the different work that we're doing, the services that we're providing. The main one here, as we moving forward, is the working with the agency to provide projects at the $3 to $15 million range. We're working judiciously with the agencies. We've been having meetings, and things are looking positive in that direction. You want to add to it?
And so as we close out, I just wanted to state to Madam Chair that 10 years passed quick. It was 10 years ago that we went up to Albany to get the law changed in order for us to create this program. And by all accounts, the Small Business Mentoring Program is the best in class and standard by allowing firms to come in to become pre-qualified, access capital, access bonding, and finish the MTA's project safely, timely, and on budget. As what was noted earlier, that the new 10-year extension was just signed into state law back in June. And so we are very optimistic that this program is going to continue to be the best in class. Also, we graduated a number of firms out of our program this year. And the firms who graduated basically finished and completed $92 million in contracts. Fox 5 did a news story on the program.
The MTA honoring more than 50 graduates from its Small Business Development Program this morning. Its goal to provide technical assistance and other vital skills needed to develop a new generation of transportation and construction contractors.
We are investing in our small and emerging businesses because we understand that giving them the opportunity to bid on contracts here at the MTA is a pathway to homeownership, better educational opportunities, and better healthcare options for their families.
Since its inception, the program has resulted in 241 graduates and nearly $400 million in contracts to small businesses.
So we wanted to just thank all of the MTA operating agency presidents and all of our staff, but also want to thank Susan Mesker, who was the diversity chair when we first started this program back in 2010. So thank you for your support.
I am stunned that it's been 10 years, but it took us a couple of years to get the initial okay to even do it. I want to thank you and your whole team through those 10 years because you've made it work. You know, it started out a little pie in the sky, I think that's what people thought, but you've pulled it off, and you've pulled it off well, and it is a national model, which is terrific. And it works here very well. It has expanded our small business opportunities. It has expanded the number of minority firms that work for us. And we've learned a lot of lessons. Sometimes on the smaller scale, we see that something's going right and that gets moved to the larger procurements. So it's been successful in many, many ways. 10 years? I've been here a long time. Anyway, thank you very much, gentlemen. Any questions? No? Well, then we're going to move on to New York City Capital Construction, Capital Program Update. Marva's first. The update on the mainline track and switch program.
So good afternoon. My name is Marva Brown, and I'm the Vice President and Chief Officer of the Capital Programs for the Department of Subways. And today I'll give you an update on the Capital Track Program. I'm going to be joined by my colleague, Tony Cabrera, who is the He's the track engineer, Chief Track Engineer. So consistent with the message that you heard this morning at committee meeting, the performance continues to improve in the subway system, including the track program. The track program, from the data, provides track-related incidents are down significantly. Delays related to track condition are down by 40% compared to the third quarter of 2018. There has been a reduction in defects. Investments in track has been a major driver in reducing the number of track-related delays, thereby increasing reliability. Major track incidents are down by 58% since September of 2016. The New York City transit system consists of approximately 822 miles of track, of which 665 miles are on the main line, 114 are in the yards, and 43 miles are non-revenue, inclusive of layup tracks. There are also 2,654 switches, of which 1,779 are on the main line and 875 are in the yards. Mainline track achieved state of good repair in 1991. and as part of the normal replacement cycle between 1984 and September 2019, approximately 423 mainline track miles have been reconstructed. Mainline switches achieved state of good repair in 1997. As part of the normal replacement cycle, similarly between 1984 and September 2019, approximately 1,328 mainline switches have been replaced. Both mainline track and switches continue to remain in state of good repair. Starting in 2004, when we initiated a standalone continuous welded rail program, and through September 2019, approximately 52 miles of continuous welded rail were installed under the CWR initiative. Not all rail is weldable. Of the 440 weldable mainline track miles, we have installed 79% of continuous welded rail in our system. This chart shows the 2015 to 19 capital track and switch programs goals and production through September 2019. Through September, 43 or 93% of the planned mainline track miles have been replaced. We have slightly exceeded our goals in the continuous welded rail program, and we have replaced 121 or 79% of the planned mainline switches. We are on pace to meet our 2015 to 2019 switch and track production goals.
When you replace rail, do you not replace all rail with continuously welded rail? Is there a reason you wouldn't do that?
Only in those places where we can. For example, guarded curves, elevated
Right.
structure,
Right.
special work, we can't.
Right.
But yes, on the most part, we do.
You do if it can be done.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And the success that you mentioned in the first slide, would you say that's largely due to increased maintenance, replacement of rail, or installation of continuous welded rail where you can do it? Or all three things?
I would say it's a combination.
It's a combination, definitely. It's a combination.
So this chart shows the 2015 to 19 track and switch programs goal and production, through September 2019. This is the same chart. I'm sorry, that's the same chart I just went through. As of September, we have spent approximately 88% of the funds allocated for the 2015 to 19 capital track and switch program. That's the next goal. The vast majority of the remaining commitments are in the mainline track and mainline switches program areas, where we have expended 92% and 76% respectively. As with the production level, we are on pace to achieve our 2015 to 19 spending allotment. This slide compares the 2015 to 19 goals to the 2024 program proposed goals. As we look to the 2020 to 2024 program, we have committed to do more work in order to maintain state of good repair, and we look to continued increase in performance improvements. We have increased our production in mainline track by 32% and mainline switches by 52% in order to keep pace with the requisite normal replacement cycles. Track performance and reliability has significantly increased. Accordingly, with the production cycle, we have prioritized a more ambitious investment pace in the track and switch programs. Here's the investment profile that will allow us to achieve this. The mainline track investment would increase by $375 million, or 34%, and the mainline switch investment would increase by $325 million, or 75%. The proposed increased investments will support maintaining the state of good repair and continued performance improvements. The following pictures are a slide recently completed work by the track program. This is elevated track panels, synthetic cross ties on Jamaica line. Can't turn this fast. Low vibration, which was installed at Ocean Parkway in Brooklyn. There's new resilient plates and continuous welded rail installed in the tunnel in Archer Avenue line in Jamaica. plate renewal with resilient plates and continuous welded rail on Concourse Line in Fordham in the Bronx. So as indicated earlier, as part of the recently proposed robust 2020 to 2024 capital program, the proposed goal for the track program has increased. Although the work is planned well in advance, the flexibility of the program allows for easy redeployment of workforces if opportunities arise. It is an ambitious but attainable goal that we will work hard to achieve. There are inherent risks faced by the in-house team, which include site conditions, manpower allocation, and the adequate coordination with general orders. We have plans in place to mitigate these risks. They include pre-construction surveys to verify the scope and the site condition in advance of the work. We perform re-evaluation of resources every year. We make sure that we have sufficient resources to achieve the work. We also work directly with the Track General Order Planning Group to ensure that all opportunities for piggybacking are explored and taken advantage of. As safety is our main focus, measures are continually being taken to ensure that we are achieving high productivity while performing track work safely. To aid in our efforts in achieving higher production goals, the Division of Track continues to explore various strategies and construction techniques, such as the use of mechanized equipment to assist employees in handling heavy material, the use of flash butt welders, which allows in-house forces to install continuous welded rail more efficiently, and we continue to make investments in the track geometry cars. We anticipate a new track geometry car sometime in next year. And this concludes my report on the track program.
Andrew, you have any questions? You've set some pretty tough goals for yourselves. But you've also demonstrated over the recent past that some of the mitigation strategies work out well.
Right.
And I think you've been able to piggyback on some of the capital construction stuff.
Yeah.
That's, the bigger programs, which is helpful.
Yes.
To what Chairman Metzger just said, when there are GOs underway, you'll use those opportunities to replace rail, I assume.
Yes. Yes.
So that multiple closures don't have to be
Right.
done.
One of the benefits of having the program set up the way it is because it gives us the opportunity to piggyback on other GOs as they're in progress. And that way it saves us a tremendous amount of money because we don't have to pay services twice. We don't have to disrupt the passengers twice. So it really is a good program because it allows us to set our own goals and work at the pace of the rest of the railroad.
But if you notice that track needs replacing, you're not going to, and
No,
there's no GOs scheduled,
Right.
you'll schedule one for your job.
Absolutely. We also have a pretty aggressive maintenance forces who make sure that they address work before it comes to the capital program.
So we've actually spoken with President Byford about inspection of elevated structures, but how frequently does every mile of track get inspected?
Well, at the basic level, you have bi-weekly or twice a week inspection by track workers that are working the tracks. Then every 15 days, you have a supervisory inspection on top of that. And then we complement all that with our track geometry car inspections, which includes a video component inspection. And that's how we are, keeping the system in good shape.
Thank you.
Could we have the IEC's comments, please?
Yes, good afternoon. I'm Mark Saluka, and I'll be providing the IEC's update on New Transit's mainline track and switch program. The 2015 to 2019 track and switch program has met its overall production goals and commitments to date. Also, through a project-by-project cost analysis, we have determined the program is currently within budget. The IEC's analysis of the individual track projects in the Capital Traffic Light Report from September of 2019 and also from prior quarters reveal a consistent number of cost and schedule variances. Transit has successfully worked around these problems by redeploying staff and resources to move the program forward, as well as to mitigate cost and variances by utilizing the savings from other projects within the program. The one-page variance reports by the agency, which are part of the traffic light report, explain the issues and their resolutions. The next traffic light report will be presented in December's CPOC. This concludes our update.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now for the Omni program. Al, come on down.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Commissioner Albert. Do you know what time it is? Look at your watch. It's Omni time. So what does Omni stand for? Omni stands for One Metro New York.
If it was Omni time, I could go to any station and tap in, right?
So now you're going to give me a hard time. Well, I'm going to fix that for you. We're going to skip right to the conclusion. In less than 12 months, you'll be able to do that. What took 3.5 years for MetroCard to do, we're going to do in 11 months. So it'll be real quick, real fast. We're done. So we're going to do an update, a recap, a 6-month look ahead. We'll look at some risks and naturally some solutions. This is the same chart or slide that we've looked at since the award of the contract in November of 2017. Now, what's good about that is we haven't changed any of the dates. So we're still on schedule, and the program is rolling out in its 5 individual phases. So I'm not going to go through this in detail, but I will offer any board members that haven't seen the entire presentation, anytime they'd like to reach out to me, I'd be more than willing to give them a complete project overview. So this is about a customer experience. What we do, the primary role of Omni is to support a superior, unified customer experiences. New features are deployed to promote system usage. This is like a heart transplant. When we went from tokens to MetroCard, that was a major renovation. And like I said, this is like a heart transplant. So we're going to be doing things that our customers have never seen before. They're going to see new technology that they're not used to using. So how we go about that is critical. And the way in which we do that is we introduce open payments first, which is you bring your own credit card, debit card, or a mobile device. Right now, 80% of all our transactions are done via mobile device linked to a payment source. The digital experience, the virtual over the physical card. We don't want to be in the MetroCard business any longer. We want you to have that fair media in your possession. Self-service using our websites, our website, omni.info, and I encourage anyone that has not seen that site to go to it. It's an education source. It's extremely well developed. I'm very pleased with the way it worked out, and I've gotten good reviews on it so far. The self-service aspect of our retail network. And naturally, we will have sales and stations and on board for our railroads. Now, our railroads come on a little later in the project, so you won't hear me speak a lot about them today because this covers what we've done to date and the next 6 months. But the railroads will be getting their fare collection system put in place in February of 2021, and it will use the e-Tix app, a virtual ticket, so they will be interoperable with New York City Transit, Long Island Railroad, and Metro North. So a new customer experience, I talked about that a little before. It needs to be intuitive. It needs to be easy. I just got a new Apple Watch. My wife gave it to me. I couldn't afford it. The beauty part of this Apple Watch, I didn't have to read anything. I mean, it's so intuitive. It works so well. It's a real indicator of what we need to look at. If you have to explain something and it's complicated and it takes a long time to get to it, you're not going to be successful. So it's simple, secure. Communications, communications, communications. There's no such thing as over-communications when you deal with technology. It goes not just for our customers, but our employees. If our employees, our first-line employees, our supervisors, our station agents, if they don't understand the basics, we failed. They need to answer questions. They need to know what's coming, when it's going to get here, and why. So where are we headed? Well, first off, we're on schedule. We've completed all the buses in Staten Island. I think that was a good thing to do. Staten Island's been overlooked over the years. They don't have a high MetroCard machine penetration. So that was, I think, a very strategic move. And from what I could see, by all accounts, it's worked extremely well. We're getting over 6,000 uses a day. We did all the stations between Grand Central in the north and Barclays in the south on the Lex line. But where do we go next? Well, I go through Penn Station every now and then, and I see lots and lots of tourists with bags. And I feel bad for them. They're waiting in line to buy a MetroCard. And unfortunately, they already have in their pocket, if they've come from Europe or Asia or Canada or almost anywhere. We've already seen usages from 111 different countries that issue cards. 111. 112 if you include the United States. There's only 170 cards that issue countries that issue cards. So you can see the availability for someone arriving here to have in their possession a media that immediately works in our system would be a wonderful thing. So Penn Station's got to get lit up next. So in December we do Penn Station. Whitehall Street, South Ferry, connections to Staten Island. 86th Street and Bay Ridge, express routes from Staten Island. Queens, if I don't do something in Queens, they're probably going to get crucified. So we got to light something up in Queens. So Supton Boulevard's a good location. It's Long Island Railroad. It's AirTrain. It gives us some connectivity. Again, it won't work on those locations. It'll get you there. It's just Supton Boulevard.
You mentioned tourists from other countries with cards. If you do this in Penn Station and they load up, can they load up a card that's issued from another city's transit?
There's no loading up. You use your credit card, your debit card, it goes right to your account. It's account-based.
Okay.
You put it in your mobile wallet, it goes right to your account.
So they would be
you don't need to
using-
load anything. You're good to go the second you land, the second you touch your credit or debit on our reader or you use your mobile device, you've paid your fare. That's the beauty of pay-as-you-go, and that's what we've introduced at this point. And then last on the list is Staten Island. We did something pretty unique with St. George and Tompkinsville. We don't have an asynchronous fiber optic network at those two locations, which is how our entire system is developed internally on our subway. So we developed a cellular system, and that's how we were able to attack those two locations. So Staten Island will be in really good shape. We'll have our Staten Island riders, our railroad riders, all able to work in December, all able to use our system in December.
One more question. You'll only be able to have a single fare. At what point will you be able to buy the weeklies, monthlies, and
So
whatever?
we're introducing other products starting as early as October of next year. Don't hold me to that. That's aggressive. That's not actually 100% in the contract. That's moving it. We've moved the needle to the left. Actually, I could do that as contractually. We could do that later in the project, but I'm trying to push to get that done sooner because 50% of our riders currently use time-based products and about 50% use pay-go. So the sooner we can open up those other products, the faster we can double our usage. In terms of line segments to be added in December, 51st to 125th Street, we want to knock out the rest of the Lex line up north to 4, 5, and 6. 138th Street, Grand Concourse to Woodlawn on the 4, and then Rector, 59th, and Columbus Circle on the 1. And we do these locations like we did with Fulton Street. We do all of the turnstiles, all of the arrays in that complex. So you'll be able to board and exit a station. All of the individual turnstiles will be omnified, as we like to say.
So from Atlantic Barclays to Woodlawn should be done by December.
That's correct. Now, we're moving very fast. This is a design-build project. What that means is that as we're moving out to install validators in the system, we're also developing the LANs, the local area networks in the stations. So it involves conduit runs. It involves certifying and installing switches and programming and mapping. So in some cases, when we get to a field location, it's not exactly as we would have thought. The system's over 100 years old, and a lot of these things were done by different contractors and well in advance of when we arrived on the site. So the bottom line with this is what we're going to do is we're going to give you 30-day look-aheads. The contract calls for us to be done with the system by October of next year, and we're on schedule. We don't see a problem with that, but I'm not going to give you a schedule that's going to roll out from now until October. 30 days every month. You look on the website and you see where we're going to be and when we're going to light that station up. So where are we with buses? So I mentioned Staten Island's done. Well, we resume expansion in the first quarter of 2020 with our Manhattan bus routes, and we're going to focus on SPS. We're going to start an SPS pilot for all-door boarding early next year. The bottom line with that is we need to test the onboard sales validation device, which is how we will validate sales and validate customers and their payment history on a proof of payment system on the SPS routes, as well as measure boarding times and compare them against our current system with SPS, which is off-board payment. So that'll start next year. In addition, we'll roll out all the SPS routes then following that. In order to implement all-door boarding systemically, we need to deal with how we're going to handle MetroCard proof of payment and coin proof of payment. So that's a different element. Because I've heard people come in today and speak and talk about, well, why can't we introduce all-door boarding on RBS, regular bus service, right now? And there are other implications associated with that. Some are policy-driven. Some are driven in terms of driving coin down in our system, so where it's no longer a problem in terms of eliminating it, similar to what we did with our express buses this past fare increase. So there are more elements to all-door boarding than just putting an Omni reader on a validator on a bus door. So we continue with Manhattan, and then we go to the Bronx, Queens, and finally in Brooklyn. And we did double the number of validators the system is going to use. The original contract called for around 6,000 validators for front doors only. We modified that contract under Andy's Fast Forward plan and doubled that volume. So instead of 6,000 validators, we're now going to install 12. The contractor had up until October of 2020 to do 6,000. So now we've asked him to do 12. And we've asked him to do that in the same time frame. Truth be told, if he needs an extra 2 months, that's what he'll get, because that's what we've negotiated. Up to 2 additional months to complete the installation of the bus validators. We haven't moved the date on the subway. The subway is still October of 2020. So if this happens, what you'll hear from me the next time I report on buses will be, we're almost done, we're finishing off Brooklyn, and we might need 2 additional months. This is my favorite slide. On schedule, on budget. I don't have to say any more. So it took us 10 weeks to do 1 million taps. It took us 7 weeks to do 2 million taps. It took us 6 weeks to do 3 million taps. I don't know how many times we can continually shrink the amount of time because we haven't expanded the system. So what's happened is more and more customers are converting to the Omni way of paying their fare, yet we haven't done anything more with real estate. Well, you're going to see these numbers are going to fly off the table when we start lighting up stations like Penn Station. That's going to make a huge difference. We've already gotten 460,000 different unique payment credentials. Now, what's a payment credential? So you could actually use, one person could do 3 different credentials, which means you use 3 different types of products. You used one card from one bank, one card from another bank, and perhaps a card linked to your mobile wallet. So it doesn't mean it's 3 people, but it's a credential, which means, though, that it's a greater acceptance, and that's what we're driving. And again, digital wallets, why are we having so many digital wallet transactions? Typically, in this element, a digital wallet transaction would represent around 20% of your payments. But typically would relate to a country like Europe or a continent like Europe or a place like Asia, where contactless cards have been in circulation for many, many years. Here they're not. So Visa has committed to issuing 100 million cards this year through their banks, and 300 million next year. So I think we're going to see the contactless card transactions begin to kick up a notch. I just got a letter in the mail from MasterCard from Citibank and finally got my card 2 weeks ago. So I'm pleased to see that the banks are catching up. But the digital wallet has been the choice for many of our customers. So we talked a little bit about the website. We're updating it constantly. We want to continually improve it, add more functionalities. We focus on increased employee awareness, engagement, training, and support. As I mentioned earlier, if our employees don't understand our system and how it operates, we failed. Every Omni element has now entered a design phase. This is a design-build contract, so that's a major milestone, which means we're designing things for this system that won't be implemented until 2022. And that, for instance, could be the CVM, the Consolidated Vending Machine. We're in PDR now, Preliminary Design Review. That machine won't get deployed for another year or 2 years, but we need to design it. And the beauty part of a design-build project is you take advantage of the technology that's available when you need it, not technology that you spec'd out 5 years ago, and now you're buying stuff that's obsolete. We finalized negotiations for all door boarding and paratransit change orders. I really wanted to say we awarded those two items. I really wanted to say that, but I'd be lying if I said it, so I can't say it. But we will say it next month. We will have finalized negotiations for all door boarding and paratransit change orders. Those two elements are going to come in later in the project. In order for us to implement paratransit in an Omni environment, it's dependent upon our back end being somewhat more mature than it is today. Right now, we're processing strictly 275 transactions, pay-go. In order to do things like all door boarding and paratransit, the back end has to be a little bit more mature. So the earliest we're going to do that is going to be sometime in 21. I mean, I'd like to say sooner, but it's probably going to be late 2021. So the 6-month look ahead. I already told you we're rolling out more stations, more buses. We continue the infrastructure. We work on the SPS pilot. We introduce Omni self-service features, account management, trip planning, service alerts, and transit tracker. Now, what are all those things? Those are all the things you're going to be able to do via the web or the app. Either one. And they're both going to be very intuitive, hopefully very convenient. And I think our customers, given that 8 out of 10 of them, I surveyed them when I ride the train every day, 8 out of 10 of them are on their phone. So I'm thinking this is going to be a natural hit. People will love this. You'll be able to use the same method to plan your trip, to pay for your trip. So what are the risks? Well, anytime you develop brand new software, I don't care who does it. I don't care if it's Apple. I mean, there's a whole fleet of jets on the ground right now because they got a software problem. So you know the risks associated with software. And when we introduce new functionalities like time-based cards, 7-day, 30-day, that's like a brand new system again because these are things that are processed that are not being processed today in our back end that will need to be processed in the future. When we roll in the railroads are a distance-based system. That's a whole different fare structure. Every time you make these changes, there's a risk associated with it. The mobile app has risks. The virtual card has risks. What are those risks? Well, what about third-party dependencies? We're going to take feeds from other data sources for trip planning. We're going to need to develop a virtual ticket in concert with a mobile wallet. Again, a third-party risk. And we're going to integrate with non-MTA agencies. We've got the affiliates. Obviously, the PATH is our biggest affiliate, and we're working with the PATH right now in order to get them on board and make them the first affiliate that gets adopted into the Omni system. So these are risks, and there's customer communications and messaging. When we do different things within our system, it can change the way a customer sees their account. Something like that can be it seems like it's not a big deal to us as we do it, but when I get my account in the mail and I see bundled transactions and not individual transactions, I'm wondering what's going on. Now, if you explain that in advance, it's not a problem. But if all of a sudden I get a bill in the mail and the bill doesn't look right, that's 47,000 phone calls now that needn't have happened. So a uniform customer experience, and go to the next slide, and I'll tell you how we solve all these problems. It's simple. It's not hard. The solution is continual testing and monitoring. And when you think you're done, you do it again. And when you think you're done, you do it one more time. And then you do ad hoc testing. Ad hoc testing does not involve the script. It involves doing things backwards, forwards, out of order, in no order, trying to trick the system into seeing something it's never seen before and look at the result. That's right. And then over-communicate to your customers. There's no such thing as over-communication. Everything we do has to be 100% transparent, and it has to be done over and over and over, repetitive, because you have to reach everyone. So those are some of the solutions that we have used to date that have made this system work. But in order to continue this process, I have to say there's only one reason this works, and that's because of Wayne Leiden, his staff that works for us in Omni. Wayne is a teammate of ours. He's my right-hand man. And I've got some Cubic folks in the back, and I can't tell you how hard they work. We have a partnership with Cubic. They're just not a contractor. Similar systems like this have failed in other cities. And the reason they failed is they didn't have the teamwork necessary, the agility necessary, the workarounds necessary to make things happen and maintain that schedule. So I want to give all the credit to the people that do this work. I get the pleasure of sitting here and telling you we're on budget and on schedule, but I should not. I should not get the credit. Any questions? I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you for your presentation. Andrew.
Yeah. So I understand the need for the back office work and when the multiple rides will be available. When will something like senior or or disabled fares be available for
So
Omni?
the senior and the disabled work at the exact same schedule as the other things that go into our back end. They can be instituted when the maturity of the back end is ready for them. Now, the student cards, the senior cards, everything we do today in the MetroCard environment, Omni will replace either in kind or better. And until such time as Omni is fully deployed, MetroCard will be used for those functionalities. So I want to make certain it's clear. No senior citizen is losing a reduced fare. No customer is losing a reduced fare. And all of our students will continue to use MetroCard and Omni in the future.
And I assume, since everybody seems in favor of all-door boarding and it does speed the bus journey, you are talking to Craig and his people about installing readers for Omni in the rear.
So as part of that award that I said I wished I had done, we're wiring up all the buses as we speak now, and that's why there may be a 2-month extension to the completion of the project, because I only want to hit the buses once. So we're taking the time now to do 2- and 3-door buses, so when the time comes to install validators, it'll be plug and play. There'll be a blanking plate, and you're going to see them on the buses on the 2nd and 3rd doors, and if we wanted to install a validator, it would be a much faster process than having to send that bus back to a depot and do all that wiring. But in order for all-door boarding to work, you pretty much have to have MetroCard replaced and eliminate coin, or issue a manual receipt for every single person that pays, and that's going to slow the process down. So all-door boarding is more an issue of timing and maturity of the Omni system versus technology. I could put the validators on those buses sooner, but you would have no way to prove payment. That's why we can institute it on SBS, because receipts are available off-board. So SBS, we're going to roll that out quicker, and you're going to see all-door boarding and on-board payment on SBS faster.
And the onboard checkers like the Eagle Team
Eagle
or whatever you
Teams.
want, will have handheld readers.
OVD, onboard validation device. That's what we're going to be testing next March. We're developing that device. It's made by a company called Infinite Peripherals, and we're going to be instituting those tests as part of our SBS pilot to get a proof of payment system in place. So when we roll out all-door boarding, we'll be good to go.
Any other questions? IEC report, Hassan.
Thank you very much. The IEC's report starts on page 63 of the CPOC book. Our analysis of the Omni project shows that the project remains on schedule and on budget through to substantial completion. The majority of variances from the phase 1 rollout have been resolved, resulting in enhanced reliability and performance of the Omni system. We expect that continued system enhancements will provide for an even better customer experience as the project rolls out with additional features and capabilities. The enhanced Omni validator should also provide for faster transactions at the point of entry. With respect to risks, we note that all-door boarding change order doubles the number of validators for buses and may delay phase 2 completion by approximately 2 months. This should not have an impact to roll out the strategy or substantial completion. The project team, Department of Buses, and Cubic have been able to plan for additional bus installations as well as increase in production of bus validators to minimize any potential delay. And 2, MetroCard system will start to be phased out at completion of phase 4 over a 9-month period. Integration of affiliate agencies may delay decommissioning of MetroCard equipment. The potential delays could result in increased costs due to extended MetroCard operations beyond the original plan. We make the following observations. To take full advantage of Omni system's capabilities, it is incumbent on the MTA to coordinate fare policies across all agencies. An example of this would be the capability to complete a customer journey with one fare product through all modes of public transportation. 2, project continues to benefit from a very well-coordinated effort led by the project team in addressing stakeholder requirements while meeting schedule milestones. And 3, effective employee training and customer communications program implemented by the MTA and Omni program partners have contributed to the success of the Omni program. The IEC makes the following recommendations. 1, dual control and well-established procedures must be followed to minimize human errors while performing critical system operations, such as downloading new software to field equipment or back office. And 2, the strategy for a consolidated approach to integrating affiliate agencies into the Omni system must be developed by the MTA prior to formal agreements. In summary, good progress continues to be made, and we are looking forward to completion of the phase 2 of the program in fourth quarter next year. Thank you, and this concludes my report. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Thank you. Mr. Savio?
The commitment and completion report through October starts on page 68 of your CPOC book. In terms of commitments, in 2019, agencies plan to commit a total of $5.6 billion, including 36 major commitments that we're tracking throughout the year. At this time, agencies have committed $2.2 billion versus a $4.3 billion year-to-date goal. By year-end, the MTA forecasts making 15 more major commitments and meeting 85% of the 2019 commitment goal. For those commitments that will slip into 2020, all are projected to be committed by mid-year, with the majority occurring in January and February of 2020. In terms of completions, in 2019, the agencies plan to complete a total of $3.4 billion, including 24 major completions that are tracking throughout the year. Through October, agencies have completed $2.5 billion versus a year-to-date goal of $2.6 billion. By year-end, the MTA forecast meeting its 2019 completions goal. Any questions?
Questions about that, Andrew? You have one more.
Okay. And the last item, we provided the CPOC committee charter in the book on page 79. This is provided for your review in advance of the corporate governance committee that will be happening in December. At that time, they will review and approve all committee charters. Currently, the staff recommends no changes to the charter.
Thank you, Tom, and IEC, and everyone who presented to us today. Motion to adjourn? And I'll second it.